Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
We want to thank our two newest Patreons at the, we termed it Rainbow Warrior level when Rainbow had only positive connotations.
Yes, and we really want to say a huge thank you to John and Jackson for your guys' support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for your support. We couldn't do without all you guys supporting us over on Patreon. And again, everything goes up on Patreon. There are 3 YouTube channels. Evolutionary Energy Arts is the original. EEARTS was the backup channel, became the main channel for a long time. And then OMMM was the newest. And OMMM is really all spiritual. With lists, playlists like mantras and things like that. So I do encourage everybody to still stay subscribed to those if you could. And it does help with binge watching, which I see a lot of people doing out there. Dolores Cannon wrote this book, Jesus and the Essenes. And we've done numerous videos, both directly channeling Yeshua and also just giving you information that we know to be true from our perspective and what we've gotten from the guides and Yeshua himself. Yeshua is one of our main guides, the real Yeshua. Again, Jesus is more of a construct of the system that has come along as time has progressed. And the real mission of the historical, actual Yeshua was one of awakening in humans human potential and preparing them for the ascension process that we are now going into. Awakening those humans that were here in a very, very dark age, even in some ways darker than ours, because now, even though we have all the chaos, death, and destruction going on, at least I think most people have the feeling that something is inherently not right with the system. Whether or not they are totally awake to what the system really, really is, at least they know that there's something wrong with the system. Dolores Cannon is somebody that Cindy has been able to contact too on the other side, as she is on the other side and hasn't come back into an embodied existence. There's a lot of smaller videos that we're going to start to do to try to meet people at where they can find the time for. I don't know if I can do a 10-minute video. We're going to try because I talk too much. But, try to keep videos maybe in smaller bits that you can just kind of gobble up and then just let yourself just kind of digest slowly. One concept, one idea. So this book, Dolores was talking, and I haven't read it. I'm very familiar with her work. I don't think I've ever owned any of her books, honestly, and Cindy hasn't either. So I've never read any of her work from start to finish. I've heard many people talk about her work and all. But that's not what we do because we're channels too. So we don't really tend to like to follow other channel works because each one of us has a unique lens. And that's really what it is supposed to be. And Yeshua and Anandamayi Ma yesterday both came through and just totally changed my day because actually I was feeling kind of low energy, saturated with too much news, and we were working on our first client of the day, and all of a sudden I felt a burst in my heart, and Cindy had felt a burst first, and it was Anandamayi Ma and Yeshua. They were both there, and they both kind of wanted to chime in on things and share some things with you guys, but as soon as they came through, the energy for the whole day just shifted. It shifted so positively, so strongly. And this is really what we can do on the planet as well if we open up to the true possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can. And this morning, Mike was asking if either Anandamayi Ma or Yeshua had anything to say. And I'm going to do my best to channel it and re-grab what I had earlier from him, and hopefully Mike can help me because he's here. And when I'm when I'm on the microphone, I tend to get nervous. But when it's just Mike and I, the energy can flow pretty freely. So that's why I rely on him to help me remember, because when I'm trancy, like I'm still a little trancy right now, and I might not always grab all the information that I had earlier. So
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you might say, well, why doesn't Cindy channel all the time? Because when you direct channel a being from a higher density, you're taking in frequencies that are incompatible directly with this density. So what does it do? It wears out the body. It destroys the body. So she has to do it either in a awakened state, or if she does go under, we only have a certain allotment of time before it could literally cause a heart attack or some sort of breakdown that could be catastrophic. And so true channels, you will see, are always faced with this difficulty because, again, we're stepping way down in frequency from their frequency. These people are not embodied in a body that most of us would visually see. They are in a purer, higher frequency energy form, and I did want to touch on that too after Cindy shares this frequency.
Mm-hmm. I want people, if you so choose, to open up as well, because while I'm channeling him, the energy is very strong channeling through me, and it kind of reverberates off of me onto anyone who is listening or chiming in. That energy definitely heals. When we were talking earlier this morning about does Yeshua or Nanda Maima have anything they want to share? Yeshua does want to share, and I do my best with the words and the translating. As we know, it can be tricky. Translations can be tricky. So what I get is what I get, and I just kind of leave it at that. But as Yeshua is watching the consciousness right now, the timeline that we are on right now, we are very near and dear to him, because we really are. So many of us, not all of us, are like his children. And if you can imagine yourself as a parent looking at a child, you watch them with awe and wonder, and you want them to be expansive. You want them to take it all in, because you know how precious life is. So as you're watching a child, this is how he watches us, and he does see how restrictive the religious system is. It's extremely restrictive. And if you were a parent watching a child and you kept seeing this child get, pulled back by a rope, getting held back because of whatever restriction, it would bother you too, even though your heart is still full of love. But that's what he's seeing right now. He sees so many who are in the organized religious system unable to break away because they feel that somehow he is like the only way to God. And that is not true. And what he wanted to get across this morning is we are expansive. And anytime you bring that expansion down to a single point, you're no longer expansive. You are restricting yourself. You're restricting yourself to a very, very high degree. And he also wanted to say, the more people that are able to let go of that restrictive nature of the church, when we go through these troubling times, these times of change, it is going to be a lighter timeline. It is not going to be so difficult, he said, but it really is up to us. It's about us coming together, expanding our heart chakras, expanding our energy, expanding how we get to know our higher selves. And you don't want to bring that down to a single point. That's just very restrictive. Like, think of a heart. A heart, when it's getting full of blood, it expands out. We want to hold that vision of the expansion out, and you can't do that through dogma.
No, absolutely. So it came up that Jesus, again, the real Jesus, Yeshua, was he in a scene? And so what we've gotten is that he's actually a major teacher, if not the teacher behind the Essenes. The Essenes were a group, again, that stayed as much as possible outside of the system, did not try to mingle with the system to the point where the system would end up pulling down their frequency and vibrations. So, again, this is more in line with his teachings, the Essene teachings, which ultimately are very, very different from the teachings that modern-day Christianity is based on, because, again, modern-day Christianity really does come out of the roots of Constantinian Christianity, even if it is no longer part of the Catholic Church or the Eastern Orthodox Church or whichever you have. Again, they're going back to the same four Gospels. They're going back to the same books that were accepted, but there were over 200 Gospels. There were countless books in circulation, of which it's curious that, and somebody else brought this up in conversation. Isn't it interesting that we find all the Nag Hammadi texts right about the same time or just before we find Israel restored as a nation? Yeah, I don't think there's any coincidences. As the agenda on the dark side moves forward, the agenda on the light does as well. As the dark side moves their chess piece, then the light's able to move as well. So again, if the dark side is moving to a different level, the light will be able to counter move to that level as well. And so Yeshua, when he was here embodied, he taught many people. It also came up, do you believe that he went to India? Yes, absolutely. He went all over the world. And you might say, well, how could anybody travel all over the world in those times? How could he get to the Americas? Well, again, he had a lot of allies in this on the light side.
Friends in high places, for sure. Definitely friends in high places. But I found that information to be very interesting and curious, that when asked about the Essenes, he said that he taught the Essenes. He taught the Essenes. I thought that was like really wow. I kind of was taken back with that one. And I think it's a good thing. But also, just while Mike was talking, he was trying to explain the shift in perception is so different than we are where we're at looking through the glass of perception now than it was when he was teaching. His teachings came to seed a lot of fifth density understandings and seed it into the subconscious of man, because he knew that humans are on the descent of the yugas, and it was going to be a difficult time. And for them to pull through, it is important to be able to tap into that one energy of understanding who you are. So back to the point of expansion, so important to go within yourself and understand who you are. Self-realization, that is key to everything. It's understanding who you are, and you can't do that with just a single note of perception, and your controllers know this. He says your controllers know this far too well, and this is why it is important for people to break out of that controlled perception and be able to see more clearly all the way around them, because this is going to bring growth.
Absolutely. And so when we talk about our layers to our bodies, because we do have multiple bodies, we have the physical body, and then you have all these different layers to the energy body. And these extend outwards. And how many are there? I don't think we really know. Again, you'll see different traditions saying different things, 5 layers, 7 layers, 9 layers, 13 layers, 14, 15 layers. Ultimately, I think it merges into the field, the unified consciousness field, ultimately. When the physical body dies, it's just the hard shell that we're utilizing as a vehicle that is returned to the elemental form. It breaks down, and the elements break down into, what they originally came from, as everything that we see is created from the elements. And yet our consciousness is still there. Our consciousness is still there. And we were watching, there's a channel called Astral Legends out there, which gives you great visuals. It's a lot of fun to watch, but there are some things that we feel are totally off. But this is, again, what you kind of get when you're in the control system and you're just using the control system sources for the most part to piece things together. Even the Sumerian texts, the Sumerian texts are obviously given to us by those we would call the Anunnaki and those that were in the Anunnaki and Draconian AI system. So, they're going to be distorted. They're still going to be from a perspective that they will give you truths, and truths that you won't find in the Bible or the Quran, perhaps. But they're still not totally accurate because, these were the truths that were there for public consumption when the darkness was taking total control. So they had to give to people certain things that people knew to be true and remembered at that point in time, acknowledge things that they knew about because it was still fresh in the memory. And then as time went on, you went darker into the Kali Yuga, they could give you brand new religious systems that were systems that would enable them to put a more total control over the minds of people. And, basically block out almost all the light, so to speak. But there's cracks now in those systems. There's obvious gaps. Now we can look and we could say, okay, who discovered that the tomb was empty? And you'll find there's different answers depending on which gospel you go into. How did Judas die? Well, there's different answers. There's different stories given there. Who caused David to take the census that resulted in a plague that wiped out 70,000 people? Well, there's different answers depending on if you're looking at one book or another, and it goes on and on and on. So there's so many cracks that have come out, and people like Mauro Bellino, Paul Davies, so many others that are scholars of the very highest level, literally doing translations from archaic Hebrew and Greek and Aramaic, and discovering, wait a minute, it doesn't say what they're teaching us. These are the cracks that they cannot hold back. The dam is going to burst, and so it will leave a lot of people shaken. But this doesn't mean that there's no creator of this universe, as we've said so many times. And some have caught on that it seems like the God of Yeshua almost has nothing to do with the God of the Old Testament. In fact, it seems like he doesn't want to have anything to do with the quote-unquote God of the Old Testament. And there's great reason for that.
Mm-hmm. The Bible that they've given us is so very controlling to the point that if someone says something and the believer in the Bible doesn't agree, they get so angry. And I want to express to people, when you are going on your journey for self-realization, spirituality, you really want to watch for that. If something is really hitting your nerves, or if something is making you angry, you need to ask why, because that's not an expansive energy, but it is an energy that's asking for attention. It's like you need to ask, why does this make you angry? Does this fact or what this person said, does that go against my belief system? Is that why I'm angry? And it's time for us to sit down and really start dissecting ourselves in the world that we live in, so that we understand ourselves. The closer we can get to our higher self, the bigger our energy is. The bigger our energy and our light is, the more we are able to touch other people and turn on their light, because this is how we're going to change what's coming up, through humans are going to go through significant changes, and the control system is doing everything they can to delegate how those changes go. They put AI in front of you constantly everywhere, so the AI is now making your decision, and you are not in touch with your heart center. When they start to break that path of the direct path to the heart center is when they start winning, and they're using that through technology. So that's another thing that Yeshua wants to get across and wants people to understand. Every time you're using AI, that's taking you from your heart center. It's not the best place to be, going through times that could be a little difficult.
We're at the point where, again, in just maybe a few decades, the majority of people that can stay outside of the system will have the ability to communicate with whoever you want. You could just go into a meditative state, think about a being, alive or not, and you'll be able to contact them. In fact, in many cases, you can do that right now. The whole problem is you can't hear them because our senses have been drowned out and dumbed down with fluoride and so many other toxins, constant and the different signals that were constantly around. If you want to be the best version of yourself, the highest version of yourself, it's going to be just about impossible to do that in a city that has so much dark technology around you every second of the day. So you have to make your decision. Is this incarnation going to be one of spiritual growth, or do I just simply want to see what I can acquire, see what I could achieve in this particular matrix, and go for fame, notoriety, etc., big cars, big houses, all that? Or, do I want to literally be the best version that I can be? So it's a choice. No one size fits all. That's part of the giveaway. When you see the system speaking, it speaks of conformity. And I think a perfect example is people that have to take a job and say you're at some sort of sales and you're given a script, or you're troubleshooting things for people, whether it's, the internet's down, I'm going to call the provider, or the cable's not, whatever it is. And they have a script and they're reading from a script and they're not being themselves. That's the system. The system is all about you conform to the system. They don't want you being yourself. No personalities needed, just your source spark, just your energy. When we shed that physical body, our consciousness simply moves outwards. If you think about the energy of love and compassion and those feelings that give us, the nice positive tingles all over, it's expansive. What is happening is our consciousness is not just staying put in that physical shell in the middle. It's expanding outwards. It's starting to touch on other layers and levels of reality that enable us to tune into other beings, feel their feelings, even at some point in time, communicate directly without the need of verbalizing anything. If you take that human-shaped body out of the middle, what do you have? You have a sphere, right? Something that's spherical looking. It's more like a torus than this round, but that's what the human energy field really is. And same as Earth, same as the sun, same as the galaxy, same as the universe, and same as, again, it goes on ad infinitum. And also, in another sense, you could say it would look like an orb. Well, yeah, when you see those spirit orbs out there, that's exactly what they are. They're people going around, beings going around, not just humans, traveling around in their energy body. And at first, when a human leaves the physical body, you might see a more classical ghost because it's still thinking of itself in those terms. As time goes on, it will adapt to being more of an orb shape. And then that's when you would see more of the spirit orb. Consciousness just simply shifts perspective. It never stops, per se.
Mm-mm. No, it doesn't stop. And, when you're looking at the human body on that picture, when that body no longer exists, but all of the information that that body created does exist. So understanding that your thoughts are things, I think, is key to understanding the rest of the realm. So after the body leaves, yes, there will be a shape there for a little while, but eventually it does turn into an orb. And I was just talking to a family member yesterday about orbs, and we had a nice conversation on understanding, what are they? How do they operate? Do they operate together or as individuals? And, I can tell you from working with them that it is like talking to a group of beings, but you don't necessarily see them with your two eyes, but you still talk to them like they're there because they are. And sometimes they will travel many in one spherical energy field, but in general, they each have their own little orb energy field. And this kind of carries on. The memory of having the body does fade away. You don't need it anymore. And our regular ability to go from place to place changes from walking into a flying. So that's why so many of you have these dreams of flying. You are remembering your natural state of being. So when you are talking to orbs, talking to your guides, talking to your angels, you want to address them as if, put some stuffed animals out in front of you if you have to, just to have that solid figure of you talking to your guides and angels. Children, they have it right. You watch children grow and play. They're doing a lot more and understanding a lot more than we are because, we grow up and life happens and we kind of lose all of that understanding.
Absolutely. When you see the celestial body over here, this is what a lot of people have remembrances of the beings that they encounter in the higher ages, as these beings are just giving off a brilliant glowing light. And these are the ancient shining ones that are spoken of. And it corresponds to a certain level of our own body as well, our energy body, as we are made up of all these different layers. Truly, we are not really a singular being even, and that's part of the big reveal when you think about spirit guides being there for us. Yes, absolutely, but there's also elemental beings that have their own consciousness that are residing in your body. And they're, in fact, keeping your body going. They're doing their job, keeping the machine running. And without them, you would be dead. Your body would not be able to keep going on. Again, this is part of that control system that makes people say things like, oh, astrology, that's a cult. You're not supposed to delve into that. Well, no, the control system doesn't want you to. It wants you to be a slave. And that's the reality. If you start to realize the great effect that the positioning of the planets and the stars has on us, because we're in one unified field of consciousness. It has the semblance of not being so. And that is a blessing in order for the individual consciousnesses to grow and to expand. When you are living a fear-based life and your belief system is based on fear and you're doing stuff because you want to avoid punishment, that's constrictive. That's not expansive. And again, that's another dead giveaway that it's the control system that is giving you that. So again, when you see these diagrams, so much of the mysteries that are out there are not really mysterious, and you'll find all these things spoken of in yoga. And many people will just think of hatha yoga when we say yoga. But it's all about mind-body union. And the union of mind and body together with the spirit, and understanding that we are just simply having a temporary human experience. So, those that manipulated the human body did not create you. There never was a time when your consciousness didn't exist. It was just in a different state.
Mm-hmm. Energy just transforms. It never ceases to exist. And when people are starting to wake up, they instantly understand that. And sometimes, if a loved one is lost, that information of knowing that energy transforms, it is not gone, can help, even though the pain and agony of that person no longer being in the 3D. I don't want to minimize that at all. That is very, very real. But it is important for healing purposes to know that that person who spent this time with you on this planet has not gone anywhere. If you're in need of comfort and there was a bond there, this person is going to come and comfort you and bond with you. Don't think that they're gone. They're absolutely not gone. Sometimes they go off and do temporary things, like they might need to rest. They might need to find a resting place, because after all the trauma and the pain going through the human body, when they're finally out of that, they have to process all of that which they were not able to process in body, because sometimes you just can't. It's just too much for the human body, and there's not enough space, or there's not enough energy for one to process certain traumas. So those still have to be processed, and there is a place and a time for that after someone leaves their body. But I mean, as far as the energy goes, this energy, we are here. We're like flowers. We're like roses. We're going to blossom. We're going to bloom. It's completely natural. And the controllers have made it to be something that's evil and horrible. But that doesn't make anybody feel very good. I mean, you have a natural thing that happens to you and somebody's going to call you evil for it. That's not a very nice belief system.
No, absolutely. And what you're seeing here, each one of these lotuses is a chakra. Chakras are energy gateways. And it is said that there's a Vedic Hindu deity that resides over each one of these chakras. Well, again, there are presiding intelligences that reside over the different chakras. So the Muladhara, the root chakra, is given to Ganesh as his particular domain, and Ganesha is the elephant-headed deity that you'll see in all over the place in India and in the United States as well. And his mantra is typically done first because it's initiating the root chakra. Again, these are in many ways dimensional gateways. And the root chakra is what keeps the physical body going. It keeps us grounded and rooted to the earth, and the physical body itself comes from the earth. So this is a good place to start. What do you see with this? These little currents on the outside are the Ida and the Pingala, the masculine and the feminine energy currents, the positive and the negative, the yin and the yang. You see that they go back and forth in a serpentine manner up through, intersecting through each of these chakras as they make their way on up. And you see the crown chakra, which connects you to your higher self and to the higher densities, where benevolent beings and ultimately the true creator resides. So when this is cut off, we are operating in the lower frequencies. There's generally given that these three chakras are the upper chakras, these are the lower chakras. In Taoist philosophy and Qigong, what you want to do is develop an abundance of energy in the lower dantian. There's three reservoirs, not to get too long-winded, but there's three energy reservoirs in the body. The lower dantian has all to do with physical energy. The middle dantian has all to do with emotional energy. That's between the solar plexus and the heart. The upper dantian is at the third eye area, and that's the seat of the soul. You develop an abundance of physical energy first, draw it up into an abundance of emotional energy, then draw that up into an abundance of spiritual energy. When the body is shed, you keep the spiritual energy. And that will benefit you out of this life into the afterlife, and then when you come back again. This is how Cindy has the ability to do what she can do. It's through a lot of past lives and being up in very, very high frequencies in past lives. When you look to what they show us in the Baphomet statue, wait a minute, where does it end? It terminates at the solar plexus. The solar plexus, the I am center. How about the I am that I am? Yeah, I am center, the solar plexus center. It's the center basically of the ego and of the lower body, not the higher echelons. So what do they want to do? They want us to keep us cut off from our higher selves. They want to keep us cut off from the real source. They want to keep us cut off from the real higher realms where the truly Devic and angelic beings reside. And this is exactly what they're doing. And again, they use an imbalanced perspective of the yin and the yang energies as just one of their methods to achieve it. And here you see the pentagram in an inverse position. So what is it putting at the pinnacle? It's putting the embodied life at the pinnacle of all things, as ultimately they want to keep us trapped in an embodied existence in which they control every aspect of it. That's not our destiny. Again, you need to keep your chakras open. They can't close anytime anything traumatic happens to you. Just even remembering being picked on by a bully in high school can shut down a chakra, or hearing bad news. And this is also why the news focuses on the negative, because they're constantly inducing traumas that will close down our chakras to keep us from spiraling upward and out of their control. So we look forward to your guys' comments. Put out questions. Tell us where you want us to go. What are you interested in? What do you want to hear more of? I really want to know what you guys want to hear more of.
Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.